Dear birds of all feathers, one of you asked for a tutorial on how to draw eyes, so I am back to kind of teach you. Please bear in mind I am not a professional and I only draw as a hobby. You are most welcome to not take me seriously. That said, here are the steps. To draw a circle, fill it with black and using a soft eraser, erase a ring within the circle. Draw a squiggly circle and blend into outer boundary. Blur out the center to create gradient and redraw black dot to redefine the pupil. Using a blender tool, stretch the outer black ring into the black dot in the center to create texture. For an appearance of three-dimensionalness, add a lighting by dabbing two white dots near the pupil and joining them by thin croissant-shaped lines. You have now completed the pupil and the iris. Next, draw an elongated C shape for the upper arch. Eat into the iris for an appearance of regular attention, or go well above it for shock. We define the medial canthus by drawing a small curve on whichever end you please. Blur the inner arch to give the sclera a soft shadow for that three-dimensional look, and redefine boundaries by redrawing lines. A thin line on bottom arch from the outer corner, growing narrower towards the medial canthus, defines the lower punctum. You have now completed the general shape of an eye. To make it less naked, draw individual curves along the upper eyelid, eating into the sclera. Lish lash on the left side tend to point to the left, while lish lash on the right side tend to point to the right. The ones closer to the center point upwards and outwards, so they will appear a little shorter. Keep going until you get something you don't hate. On the lower lid, draw finer curves along the outermost line, getting thinner and shorter towards the medial canthus. Blur the base and sharpen lash ends. I changed the shape of the eye because the original made me feel itchy. Moving on. A lish lash is opaque and it blocks out light, so place shadows under the upper lid by creating a new layer below the first and tuning its opacity to about 30%. Using a pen tool at full opacity, draw along the arch of the upper lid. Eye bags are defined by extending shadows from the medial canthus. As with the sclera or shading of any rounded object, a gradient is created using a blending tool to make shadows appear softer. The shadow from light being blocked is sharper than shadows from light being scattered, so lish lash shadows aren't blended out as much as the shadow on the whites. For color, simply add another layer below all layers and select the colors you want to use. For the iris, I chose green, and for the skin, I chose one of many human skin colors. Using an eyedropper, select different tones and saturation within the same hue to create contours on the skin. The strip above the upper eyelid, as well as the triangle above the medial canthus, are typically darker and more saturated due to shadows cast by bone. The parts that jut out more, such as the cheekbone and eye bags, are highlighted with lighter, lower saturation tones. Finally, for eyebrows, using the same pen tool, draw inverted L shapes along the darker strip. Longer and thicker, pointing upwards closer to the medial canthus, shorter and thinner, gradually tilting to the right away from it. If, like me, you didn't get it right the first time, you don't have to erase the whole thing. Just set your pen to no color and finer thickness and thin out your eyebrow where you want them thinner, and then redraw the hairs to your liking. Keep going until you get something you don't hate. Let me know what else you want me to kind of teach you to draw. And if this tutorial has been remotely helpful, do give the like a little peck and consider subscribing to my channel. Until next time, have a safe flight.